Terry, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic as well. Fall is here, which is my favorite season. If you
Hmm.
live in the Northeast, everybody's got theirs. Fall is definitely mine,
Hmm.
for sure. And you can see probably this candy behind me. We're getting ready for
Yep,
Halloween, which is my favorite time of year.
I
Uh,
agree. I'm right there with you.
nice, love it. So people want to know. This is, the probably the biggest question everybody asked any candidate is, what will be your theme song for your campaign rallies?
So my theme song for my campaign rallies is going to be "Put a Woman in Charge" by Zeb Mo.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't know if you've heard it. You'll have to look it up.
Deep
I was
track.
I was at a festival with Ocean County United, and there was a woman who was performing. And at one point, Ocean County has virtually all women on their ballot for the New Jersey State Assembly this year, as well as down ballot races as well. And so the woman said, "I have the perfect song to honor all of these ladies." And they called us all up, even though my election is until next year. And they said, "So all the ladies who are running for office this year and next year, come on up. We have the perfect song for you." And it was "Put a Woman in Charge." And
Hmm.
it was fantastic. So there we go. Got
There
my
you go.
song.
Gonna have to check it out. Yeah, I gotta look it up. Zeb Mo. Never even heard of Zeb Mo. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
Zeb is man or woman. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I have to assume woman, but I guess I'll
Nope,
find
it's a
out soon
man.
enough. But
It's a
oh, it's
man.
a man. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hey. See that? This is what happens when you assume. So
Yep.
we didn't come to talk about that. Tell us why. Tell us why you decided that you want to run. What makes you so qualified to represent your district?
So I decided to run to bring a real, authentic South Jersey voice into the halls of DC, because I have shared many of the same struggles and challenges that my fellow South Jerseyans have faced. And it's a little corny, but I can literally say I have weathered the same storms, figuratively and literally, that they have. So I'm a working class girl, and I have working class values and a working class background. And although I've had some wonderful privileges in my life in terms of where I was able to go to college and, some travel experiences that I had, I've I don't come from money. My parents didn't come from money. There's been times where I've been unemployed, on Medicaid, or without health care, completely. I'm a single mom. I was a retail store manager for 30 years and a caregiver. So I have, again, shared so many of the same struggles and challenges that my neighbors have, which gives me a better insight into what South Jersey needs than people who either haven't lived here at all, or maybe had higher ranking jobs than I had in the past, or whatnot. And that's why I say it's a real authentic voice that I can bring in as somebody who has those same shared experiences.
Yeah, I love that. I don't think that's probably the biggest problem. Democrat, Republican, whatever you are, we don't have enough people that have experienced the everyday life of an American. You can tell too when they haven't because
Mm-hmm.
they've got the nerve. They'll sit there and look in the camera and say, "Times are tough right now under this person's administration. Chip in $20 to help me get a job." Like, you just told me times are tough. They don't know, they don't know the pain of or the pressure of walking out and seeing you have a flat tire. And now all of a sudden your budget is just blown up because you don't know how you're going to get that taken care of. So that's
Or,
great.
do I have a jack? Am I going to be able to change it?
Yeah.
Which side of the car is it on? Am I going to be hit by a car? Or is it on the inside of the shoulder? Like, all of that. But yeah, and I hear that a lot too. How where people are talking about campaign finance all the time, and like, what's your funding like, and so on and so forth. And I usually shut them down really, really fast. And I say, first of all, I'm representing three of the four poorest counties in the state of New Jersey. Okay, so people don't have a lot of disposable income, number one. Number two, if somebody has $20 that they want to put towards a candidate to make a difference, I want them to give it to one of the people that's on the ballot this November 2025 to help them get the materials they need in order to get elected. Because I still have almost a whole year. So things could change then. They could then, they get back on their feet a little bit more disposable income. They can send money then. But frankly, and my team hates it when I say this, I've never believed money belongs in politics. I signed the candidate integrity pledge with money out of politics, saying that I'm not accepting super PAC money, money from special interests, lobbyists, dark money nonprofits. As I said, I don't come from money. I have a 100% grassroots campaign in both funding and volunteers. Um, and I would rather people, I want their votes. That's what I want. That's what means more to me than anything in the world. And I don't think I should have to buy it by asking somebody to donate to my campaign.
Yeah, so you said you signed the pledge.
Mhm.
Um, let's say somebody comes up to you and they're like, hey, we're from the, Take Care of the Children Foundation. We're a lobby group here in DC. It's something you're for already. I'm just spitballing some organization.
Mhm.
Something you're already for, and they say, hey, we just want to give you this money. You're already amplifying our message. So what's the harm? Would you take it?
No. And I tell you why. Because they should be putting the money towards the children.
Okay.
Why are they electing me? If they already know that my values are standing for the children, them giving me money isn't going to make me stand for the children even more. Give it to the children or to a nonprofit that can actually support children's issues.
Yeah. Love that.
Mhm.
So right now, let's get into what's affecting Americans right now.
Mhm.
And that is the biggest thing right now is the economy. We have job growth has slowed. We don't even know. The last ADP report came in negative 35,000. That's private sector jobs. We don't even know what the Bureau of Labor and Statistics are reporting. What do you think right now Congress could do to reverse what we're seeing, or at least kind of get back on the positive side for job growth?
That is a really, really good question. And I don't think that there is an easy answer to that at all whatsoever because Congress is so very divided on everything. The one thing that they need to do is they need to reverse or reimagine what the tax structure is. And with the working class, the middle class people, the working class, the working poor that get hammered over and over and over again with taxes, while you have the top 0.1% that aren't paying an equitable share. Okay. And we know factually that when the middle class and below, in those levels, okay, have resources to spend, they spend them in their community and they boost their community and so on and so forth. They do that. That's what we've seen that in the past. We know that that happens. When you cut the taxes for corporations and multimillionaires and billionaires, okay, they just continue to hoard the wealth. They buy more stocks. They'll get, you could be a Mark Zuckerberg and buy an island, or Jeff Bezos and buy a new yacht, like all of that kinds of stuff, which is, how is that helping the community that you're from? That's not helping you down here. Right here, right now, what we need in South Jersey is we need to get responsible corporate investment that comes down, that's going to provide a living wage for people and benefits, and also help contribute to the environment by being environmentally responsible with renewable energy, using renewable energy sources. We need to bring those jobs here, as opposed to, and I don't think that Jeff Andrews ever fought to bring jobs here. He's got money here for infrastructure projects, but not like working with companies to bring jobs here, supporting our unions. But we need to get money into the hands of the people who boost the economy, and that is the middle class and the working poor. And by that, they need to lighten up the tax load and give the tax load to the people who can afford it.
Yeah, no, you said it when you said that, the middle class and poor people, they spend the money they have, which is the truth. Like if you give me a tax break, that money is very likely going back into the economy. Yeah, and especially now, prices are through the roof. I mentioned the candy behind me. That is not cheap this year. It is absolutely expensive, but groceries prices, beef, coffee, record highs. Um, all because of, well, I'll let you tell us. Why do you think it is? And again, the question is, let's fast forward, you're into Congress. What are some steps you would take to alleviate inflation, or maybe, kind of neutralize it and maybe bring some prices down?
Yeah, I think there's several things that need to happen. First of all, these tariffs are regressive, and we all know that tariffs get pushed on to the people. where people, they end up paying it. It's not the companies that are paying it and so on. And so that's not happening. We end up paying the taxes because the vendors that are buying the products, they have to pay more for the products to take into consideration the tariffs, and then they have to charge us more in order to buy those products to make up what their costs are. Okay. So Congress needs to take back the power of the purse. Congress needs to take that away from Donald Trump and the administration. The second thing that needs to happen is, we're not hearing that the reason that prices are going up is because companies are going under. And so they need to raise the prices in order to maintain the status quo. And I'm talking the big companies. I'm not talking the little mom and pop shops. I'm talking your big mega corporations and so on and so forth. Okay. None of them are going under. None of them are causing a stink. You're not hearing about having them to lay off people from work, or, they're reporting negative, or they're reporting losses, quarterly losses. Okay. They are price gouging as far as I'm concerned. And we need to get them to stop. It goes along the thing, as I've always said, is how much is enough? How much money do you need in order to thrive and succeed? And that's with those corporations as well. At some point, there's only so much that you can get from people who have nothing. And the prices have to come down. So it's tariffs and going after the price gougers, and holding them responsible for raising prices when there's no reason to do so.
Yeah. So let me ask you this then. Let's kind of blend the tariffs and the price gouging together.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that there is some room for, if they're price gouging, where we could implement tariffs? Like, look, we know you got extra money. Let's shake that out of you with tariffs. And I guess there's a second part to that. Well, let's just ask that question. Do you think there's any thought there, maybe that Donald Trump is making, giving him more credit than he deserves, that maybe these tariffs are eating into that price gouging profit?
Um, they could be. They very well could be. Okay. But then the flip side of that is, could we invest here? Are there companies here where we could get that same product where the tariffs aren't going to be instituted? Or do we have to get them from these other countries? Now, we may need to get them from certain countries. Like if we're looking at agriculture, okay, we
Yeah.
only have such and such a growing season here. All right, so there could be tariffs that are coming in, but we already see that those prices are high as they are because your local farmers market has to import all of that stuff. So now they're paying a shipping fee as opposed to going to their local farms and getting it that way. I'm really talking about the people or the companies that are your conglomerates, your multinational corporations, those that get subsidies from the government, but yet don't pay their workers a living wage, so that their workers are on assistance, whether it's Medicaid or food, SNAP or whatnot, and they're still raising their prices as well.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're raising your prices. Yes, I could get it. You might have to offset tariffs, but if it was that important to our corporations and our conglomerates, why aren't they pushing back on the administration and saying, this is hurting us? What you're doing is hurting us on our bottom line. They're not doing that. They just continue to go with the flow and let everything happen as it is. And that's another reason why I'm running, Hal, is because I'm a student of history. And if you go back at least 60 years, you always see that there are things that happen where we take one step forward thinking like, yay, we're going ahead. And then the next thing you know, we're 6 steps back. And then you
Yeah.
go a little forward, right? And we talk about the same things over and over and over again. So we hear the tariff story over and over again. We talk about inflation over and over again. We talk about the cost of living over and over again. We have smart people in this country. Let's bring them all together and figure this out so we can work on other things, other issues to move forward, instead of regurgitating and just talking about the same thing over and over again with no real solutions.
Yeah, I chuckled when you said companies should be pushing back on the administration. My first thought was Tim Cook bringing Donald Trump a little golden trophy to get out of tariffs. And I was like, they are pushing back by kissing Donald Trump's butt and getting out of it for themselves, while the little guy who can't do such a thing continues. But the tariffs, yeah, I think you kind of hinted at it that Congress should take back their power of the purse, right? That's Congress. Now, the Supreme Court is going to rule on this, whether or not Donald Trump can just say there's an economic emergency and then unilaterally issue tariffs. If the Supreme Court sides with him, which it seems like they will, that's just been their history lately.
Mhm.
Um, when you get to fast forward, you're in Congress. Do you see yourself as someone that could work with Donald Trump, or you think, I bet I could go talk some sense to this guy. I can work with him on these tariffs, or do you think that's just an exercise in futility?
I think it's an exercise in futility with him himself,
Mhm.
okay, and the people who surround him. When I get into office in 2026, or actually we get elected 2026, we're installed in 2027. In 2027, I'm manifesting that it's going to be a blue wave in 2026. So that this way we have both houses of Congress and we're able to work out things together. And then it'll be on to Donald Trump are you going to play the good guy and you're going to do what's moving forward, or are you going to continue to play in this very authoritarian role where you don't want to get anything done because it's not done the way that you want it to be done and it's not enriching you personally?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I sometimes am arrogant and think, I bet I could talk to him. But then I snap myself back to reality and be like, no, because the second I leave the room, someone else is going to talk to him and everything I said is gone. And it's all going to be undone.
Yeah. And the other thing, Hal, and I don't know if this is appropriate for the podcast or whatnot, but I don't want to be in the room with an adjudicated sexual predator.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I
it's
just
fine. Yeah.
don't. As a woman, especially knows how he has, with different policies and different things that he has said about women, I don't want to be in a room with him. Mm-mm.
Yeah, no, I feel that. Um, the other side of tariffs, of course, is it's not just increasing prices here, it's hurting our markets and our farmers are taking the biggest hits. We are
Mhm.
now good on the media that they're finally covering this. We're hearing from farmers across the country that they are bleeding, and the smaller ones aren't going to last much longer. What's it like in your district? What are you hearing?
So I haven't had the opportunity to talk to our farmers. I know that where I've been going, since May, when I've been traveling around the district, there's always been a presence of farmers markets in the different events where I've gone, which has been wonderful with them coming and selling their wares. And people are all about, supporting Jersey farmers and Jersey Fresh and that. And we have some nice sized farms, but we don't have the big industrial farms like what you see in the Midwest.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that they're not hurting, by any stretch of the imagination. And I like to group the farmers in as a group is that they are so vital to what we do, and not only what we do in our homes, and having the good produce and the dairy and the meats and all of that go in, that we can get from here, um, but also what they do on a larger scale. So whether it's whether it's producing food for hungry children abroad, which I don't, if you recall, a couple of weeks ago they like just burned it all instead
Yeah.
of give it to them, which is like seriously. Um,
Certainly Nobel Peace Prize worthy.
yeah, like it's just asinine what
Yeah.
happens, But our farmers are known for things like our you know our soybean farmers are suffering because you know the companies that or the countries that would get them from us didn't want to pay the tariffs, so they went to someplace else. They went to Argentina. So I'm talking about China. They went to Argentina and they got their soybeans from there. But now we're going to send $20 billion to Argentina to help them. And it's like, you there's no self-reflection that, oh, I did this, my bad, I'm sorry, I need to fix it. It's just, I'm not going to, we have an administration that isn't going to admit that they're wrong. They're not going to backpedal and try to make things right here. They're just going to, throw money at things that they've took away from vital services here.
Yeah, the Argentina thing is strange because America First is the cry. A lot of his supporters, they support these USAID cuts because this money should be spent in America. Then we send 20 billion to Argentina, who uses that money to offset export tax. They drop the export tax and then steal our Chinese market. And yeah, there's no part of the administration that's like, oops, looks like we screwed that up. No, it's they're patting themselves on the back for it.
Right.
It's
Yeah, and the thing that happens too is the media itself isn't covering, like select media are covering,
Mhm.
but not everyone is. And as we well know, the Republicans are able to, and this administration are able to use um, what I call passion words, or words that are able to drive fear in people and to get people on board and use them whether they're true or not to
yeah,
say things. So their their followers, their community, their constituents aren't even hearing this. And when you bring it up to someone, they don't believe that it's true. That's not true. That would never happen. It's not true. And if you say it is true, here are some sources you can look at. The response is most oftentimes, well, that's all fake news. They don't report it. I watch Fox and Fox doesn't tell me that. Or I watch Newsmax, it doesn't tell me that. So on. And it's like it is true. It's like I told my daughter once when she would want to show me different videos or had read an article or something that was very upsetting. And I would say to her, I get it. It's very, very upsetting, but I want you to do something first. I want you to research it and find 3 distinct sources that report the same thing. Now, it can't just be 3 sources that regurgitate the same words. It has to be 3 unique
yeah,
points of view that are reporting the same thing. Okay. And if it's true, yes, like something has to be done, absolutely. But it might not be, because some people like to fan the flames of fear mongering and just hatred and whatnot, and say these absolutely outrageous things without any, and put it out there as though it's truth. And she later came back to me about an hour or two later, and she goes, you were right, I did look it up, and it wasn't real, it was just. And I'm like, okay, good. Because if it had been
there you
real, it was
go.
really awful.
That's funny. Um, so kind of moving on a little bit to healthcare, but also staying on this idea about working with Trump or not working with Trump.
Mhm.
Right now, the Democrats have decided we can't work with them. We can't work with Republicans because they don't want to. So instead of just signing a clean continuing resolution, they're putting their feet in the sand or digging their feet in the sand, and saying, we're going to negotiate something, or we're not signing anything.
Mhm.
So you need us. Let's come to the table. Do you support what the Democrats are doing right now? Would you be part of that, or do you think they should take a different path?
I support them 100%. I I understand the pain that federal workers feel. Okay, there have been times where I've been laid off, without pay, and I get it. I completely understand. What the Democrats are doing is they want to make sure that we get the Affordable Care Act subsidies added back in that were removed in the one big beautiful bill that was signed in July. Without those, we're going to see thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people lose their health coverage, because it's going to rise astronomically. One report that I saw said that if you were um, an average person, that whose bosses, you made good income, your bosses just don't offer you health insurance, so you get it through the marketplace. Okay, so you're not getting subsidized insurance. They were expecting to see an increase of anywhere from 15 to 17% in their premiums. Okay. However, if you were part of the group that um, gets the subsidies because of your income, they were looking at an increase of up to 75%, if not more. And that's unaffordable. Like, if they could afford that, they wouldn't be on the marketplace,
Right.
like they wouldn't need the subsidies if they could afford that. So people are going to have to choose, do I just not have health care, and then it's just going to be more expensive for those who do, because the corporations will raise their premiums themselves. Are they just going to overrun our emergency rooms to get emergency care, and then that's going to cause a whole nother issue? What I firmly believe that government is responsible for protecting its citizens and making life better for them. This isn't making life better for us.
Mhm.
It's just not. And there are way, and we talk about this all the time. This is one of those things. We talk about healthcare all the time. Why can't we have universal healthcare? Covers the whole person, mind, body, eyes, ears, teeth, like all of that kinds of stuff, instead of everything being separate. You know, reasonable, affordable prescription plans, like all of that. Like, why can't we do that? You know, because we have a for-profit healthcare system.
Yeah,
And
the
yeah.
no, I was gonna one of the biggest scams that has ever been perpetrated on the American people is that eye care, dental care is not health care. That
Mhm.
somehow those two things are separate. Like, could you imagine? I would guarantee you if they could get away with it, there would be like a separate heart health plan if you
Mhm.
want it. We're going to take care of everything, but if you want us to do anything to do with your heart, well, that's going to be this plan.
Mhm.
If they want, it's amazing how it's big business, I guess is the way to put it. That
Yeah.
healthcare.
Yeah. I used to describe it as, I mean, this probably isn't it's legalized gambling on an enormous scale, because you're paying to bet that you're going to need to use this. You know, I'm covered, so I'm betting that I'm going to get sick and I'm going to use this. And they're betting that they're going to take all your money and never have to give you anything back.
Yeah.
And I think they're winning.
Oh, 100%, 100% they're winning.
Yeah,
Yeah,
without a doubt. You
that's
know,
not even close. For
yeah.
you, so you're for universal health care. Do you know what that would look like? Are you still, is that something that you're willing to negotiate? Like what's your plan there?
It's something that wouldn't be able to happen overnight. It's something that would definitely have to be implemented in steps. And a nominal tax on the wealthiest amongst us would be able to, and it's been shown, Elizabeth Warren has had plans out there. Other senators and people in Congress have talked about plans to do this, where we can afford a single payer healthcare system. And we start by building up the Affordable Care Act, you know, allowing it to be more affordable and better coverage. You know, as I said, the whole body, not just the body, you know, but your eyes and your ears and your teeth and especially your brain. And I'm a huge proponent for mental health services. My daughter has battled mental health issues for over 20 years. And it's just, we're losing the stigma a little bit, but it's still there. And
Mhm.
there are so many resources that need to go into helping people. And that's something that we need to cover too, you know, and making prescriptions affordable. My mother, when she had diabetes, and even though she had a prescription plan, she still paid like $300 a quarter to get her insulin. And it was just like, this is, how do people who don't have money do this? And the question, the answer is they don't. They go without, or they
Yeah.
ration it, and so on and so, you know, all of that. But for a country, we're the wealthiest country in the world, and I've said it before. We have people who with unbelievable wealth, absolutely unbelievable wealth. And what are they doing with it? You know, I want to go to like just Elon Musk at one point. He actually, I think he went to the WHO or another global group and had said, you know, how much would it cost to end world hunger? And they said about $6 billion. And he said, okay, you know, and he went and bought Twitter instead.
Which was 40 billion.
Yeah.
Um,
So like you have these people who can do it, and there are philanthropists that do wonderful work. You know, Melinda Gates is doing wonderful work. You have Mackenzie Bezos that's doing wonderful work and giving back to their communities and you know people in need and whatnot. You know, but there needs to be more.
yeah.
There needs to be more.
Yeah, I don't, do you know who Mr. Beast is? Do you know that name?
Mm-mm.
So he's a YouTube creator. I think he's the biggest one. I don't know. And I think he's also the first billionaire from YouTube. Like that's
Oh
how
wow.
he is billion. He's been doing things. So he gave, I don't know the name of the city, somewhere I believe in Africa, in an African country. He provided running water for these people. He used his money for that. He used his money to give, I don't know, I will say 100, I don't know the exact number, 100 blind people sight, whatever level of blindness they were. He just said, you know what, forget it. Let me just use this money to directly make this happen. And you know what? He's still stupid wealthy.
Yeah.
And he really shows that there's enough money out there. It's
Mhm.
just too few people have it. The not that people shouldn't be winners in life, that there shouldn't be
Right.
wealthy. I just feel like the balance between the winners and the losers is a little rough.
Yeah, it is. And I agree wholeheartedly. I don't begrudge anyone their success. I am your biggest cheerleader, rooting you on. You go, fantastic. But at some point, how much more do you need?
Yeah.
You know, and what that cutoff is. And again, I'll quote Elizabeth Warren once again, or use her as a reference. Is she actually said, if my tax plan went into effect, okay, like the 2% tax that would be paid after, $50 million, $100 million, whatever the number was that she had. She goes, the billionaires will still be billionaires. Like they're not going to be all of a sudden um,
Yeah.
poverty stricken. Okay. Like this tax will put this much money into the federal coffer so that we can provide all of these services for our people, the greater good, and they'll still have billions of dollars,
Yeah. They'll
you
still
know?
be able to get that second yacht. The yacht manufacturers will still be in business.
Yes.
Um, yeah. Now, speaking of the money our government spends, we have it for sure because we just absolutely blew up the immigration enforcement budget.
Oh,
ICE ICE has a bigger budget than I believe it's the Marines is if I have it correctly.
you do.
Um, so first, let me put you on record on this singular question. Um, are you for or against deporting undocumented violent criminals?
I am for deporting violent, undocumented criminals that have gone through due process.
Okay, so you are not pro-criminal then. So
No,
we have
no,
you on the record as
I am
not
not
pro-criminal.
pro-criminal. But
Okay,
you can't say that somebody's a criminal without due process.
right. So yeah, so we got to find out. We verify that they go through and then they're gone. So you're not pro-criminal. So nobody
No,
can
not
accuse you of
pro-criminal.
that. So then
No.
the next question, because if I don't ask that, that's the response. Um, how do we maintain or be able to protect our citizens and have a proper immigration system without breaking up families, ICE snatching up kids off the street or people at a workplace? How do we keep our humanity and have a functioning immigration system?
I've thought about this for years. Years. The $170 billion that is currently being used to militarize our immigration response, okay, our immigration policies, could so better well be used to provide compassionate humanitarian paths to citizenship. So we already have areas where people can come, where they checkpoints, where they cross into the country, so on and so forth. Okay. Why not expand that? Why not expand the number of officials that are there that can greet these people as they come, you know, help them get the paperwork that they need to move forward, okay? Get them maybe not necessarily a social security number, but a tax ID, because they still are, like many of our immigrants that are in the country still pay taxes, even though they can't access the benefits that they're paying taxes for, um, and get them on a pathway to citizenship. Okay. And if you're being vetted right there, you can find out, again, we have smart people who can figure these things out. You can vet them and say, you are a violent criminal. Like we know that you're this, we know that you're this, we can do that. Okay. That happens. So that people can come in and they can contribute to their communities. They can build their communities. Immigrants have always been the backbone of our country from the day that we were all immigrants, unless you are Native Americans or indigenous peoples, you know, and there's a way to do it, to bring them in where again, it is humane, it is compassionate, and it lives up to our values, our better values. We should not be ripping children out of the arms of their parents. We should not be randomly accosting people, arresting people, throwing people to the ground because they speak a different language. They're brown, okay? They have certain tattoos. They have a certain type of a job. Like that's flat out Nazism. Like you can't. That's not who most of us in this country are.
Yeah, I think the biggest pushback that Donald Trump is seeing, not from his hardcore base, they'll love him no matter what, but the people that voted for him thinking that he was going to get rid of violent criminals, is these like images we're seeing of women having their children or their husbands snatched away, children crying because they know they're never going to see that parent again. How we lost our humanity is so beyond me. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
agree. And one of the things that I say too when I talk to people about this issue is like, the world sees what's going on here. Okay. Immigrants see what's going, people who are migrants, people who are from other countries see what's going on here. And they have for years, years and years and years and years and years. Okay. So even with any anti-immigrant sentiment that existed in this country, or any kinds of immigration policies that were enforced that separated people, okay, it's not happening now because what's happening is so egregious, but they would still come here and still flock here to come here illegally because what they were leaving behind was so much worse than what they're seeing is happening to them here.
yeah,
And like, that's like, again, like you said, your humanity.
yeah,
Like these are people who were leaving countries and family behind for so many different reasons: sexual assault, human trafficking, drug lords, violence, all of that, and it's, the poverty, everything that's there. And they come here and they contribute. And when they talk about, they say, oh, but they're all violent criminals. It's like there were 8% of them that were found to be criminals. 8%. But you're victimizing a huge section of the population because 8% of them did something wrong. Why not go after those 8%? Find those 8%, and not just bust down people's doors or break into their roofs or pull them out of cars. And like you said, the children and like the children and the seniors and the people who have been here forever, like seriously, like it boggles the mind,
yeah.
boggles completely.
Yeah, it's interesting when you were talking about people are coming here because they're leaving something worse. There is this human drive for a better life,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to provide for your family, yourself, to have freedom, all these things, opportunity. They're reporting zero crossings right now. I do not believe that at all. There is no way where that there's just people are like, well, why take my chances? I'll just deal with this. I don't believe that at all. I want to get to a bunch of things before we get out of here. A few items just to kind of get you on record.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of give me a yes or no short answer. You can give some gray. I'm not asking you to just, blank, because if you do that, then they'll jump on you for it. Um,
Okay.
but so the first one, the administration has floated the idea of raising the Social Security age to collect benefits, in an effort to make it more solvable, solvent. Would you be for that?
No, I would be for raising the payroll tax cap so that everybody pays into it equitably in order to fund it, um, not in perpetuity, but for decades to come.
Okay. You are for universal health care. What about minimum wage? Would you be for raising the wage? And if so, do you have a number in mind, an idea in mind?
I'm for a livable wage. I don't think that a minimum wage cuts it across the country as a national minimum wage, because we know that the cost of living in one state can vary greatly from the cost of living in another state. That's why I think there needs to be a minimum livable wage that is tied to inflation.
Okay. Something that was a huge issue in 2024 and does not look like it's going to be in 2026. That is women's reproductive rights. Um, do you think that's between a woman and her doctor, or do you, as a member of Congress, have to get involved?
It's between a woman and her doctor.
Nothing else, huh? Nothing else to add. All right. Um,
Yeah. I
Congress.
could go on, but we need a whole nother hour to talk about that.
Congress trading stocks. Would you be
No.
for banning that? So no.
Yes. Yes. Ban it. No, they shouldn't be allowed to do it.
See,
So
it's like
yes.
Family Feud. You got to wait till I finish the question, or you're gonna give the wrong answer.
Yep.
Um, term limits. Would you be for term limits?
Absolutely,
Do
100%.
you have an idea, a number in mind, like a number of terms for Congress and Senate? Or
I think it's a number of years in total. So what I would like to see happen is I think that you should have a 20-year term in federal elected office. So that means that if you were elected for 3 terms in the House, so that's 6 years.
Mhm.
Okay, well let's
For
make
the
it 8.
Senate?
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So the House, you're elected for 2-year terms. Okay, so say you did that for 6 times, we'll say 6 years, so that's 12 years. Okay, and then you decided to run for Senate, you could run for 2, so that equals 20 years in total that you served.
Okay.
Get it? Like that kind of
Yep.
thing has to happen. I think, and I think that 20 years is getting onto that point of like a generation has come. And I'm not saying that there aren't people who go with the flow and progress with the times and whatnot, but I don't believe in lifetime political office
Yeah.
people. And for myself, I actually tell people that I would put a self-imposed term limit in because I'm 58. So when I'm elected in 2026 and then installed in 2027, I'll actually be 60. Okay. So when that happens, I hope to be elected for only 5 more terms. So then that way I can, retire in at the age of 70, and then I can go do my thing. And during that time that I'm in office, much like I did in retail where I work with bench, all about building the bench, getting the people
Yeah.
who are coming in after you, work with the young people, to come in and who's going to be next. Like who am I mentoring to
Yeah.
take my place and move forward? And not necessarily take my place with my same ideas, but who's going to move forward with what we started and continue onwards.
I've always thought that, like, why aren't they? And again, it's not to mold your replacement, so it's just a mini you. Now it's a younger you with the
Right.
same, but they understand where the bathroom is in Congress. They understand how to write bills and pass bills. It's all these things that they're developing. They understand the district, what it looks like, the problems within it. And they can see it with fresh eyes. It's
Yeah.
weird to me that that kind of apprenticeship doesn't happen. But
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what we need. And I again, I don't think we should have career politicians. I'm not a career politician. I'm an everyday, you know, local, lifelong Atlanta County resident, and that can bring a fresh perspective, but a fresh perspective of somebody who's lived the same struggles as the people who live here,
yeah,
and understand and has seen things from, going back to 1970 to what it looks like today.
the Ukraine war is still raging on. Would you
Hmm.
continue to fund the defense of Ukraine? And then
Yes.
do you have a a red line that Russia could cross where the US gets directly involved? And do you have an end game in mind of what success looks like?
So I think that as somebody who's like in the house and one little voice from New Jersey might
Mhm.
not be able to make big changes here, but what I can say is that I am for supporting Ukraine. And the reason why is because Russia, Vladimir Putin, all right, is an old guard USSR, wants to bring everybody back together again. Okay, we all know that. All right. So he never should have been able to get away with invading and taking the Crimea the first time. Like that should have been the red line where like we now not necessarily putting our troops on the ground, but definitely now's where we're putting in the word is leaving me right now, but that's where we start putting in sanctions.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what we're doing. This is no go. You can't do this. Okay, um, and the red line for me is if he does it to the neighbors. And we do know that Russia is putting troops on borders with Poland, and we do know up in the northern countries as well. So it is something that I don't want to have happen, but we shouldn't be surprised if something does. And that should be our line in the sand where we get with our allies in order to defend our allies in that area from Russia.
Okay. And then last question, which is two parts. First, are you for a universal school lunch program, federally funded?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now let's fast forward. You're in Congress.
Mhm.
You co-sponsor a bill that's going to fully fund school lunch, school breakfast, the whole 9 yards. It gets through the House, it gets through the Senate, it's on Donald Trump's desk.
Mhm.
He brings you into the Oval Office and says, Teresa, because he's not going to get your name right. Uh,
No.
Teresa, I really like this bill, and I'm ready to sign it under one condition. You have to name it the Donald J. Trump Feed the Children's School Lunch Program. Would you do it?
I would compromise with him and say, that's kind of a really, really long name. Can we do the DJT school lunch program? To
Okay.
which he would probably say yes. And then we use different verbiage for the DJT,
Yeah, then we can
different words.
run it into Chat GPT and say, what does DJT stand for? That we can laugh at them over. Okay. Um, but just because I'm curious, you say you're a New Jersey girl. Is there like, do you have a preference? Bon Jovi, Bruce Springsteen?
Oh man, I can't choose between those guys.
Okay. I'm not going
I
to make
I
you.
I love both of them. I grew
Yeah.
up with both of them, and I am I'm an 80s girl, hence the hair back
There you
there.
go. Yeah. Which
You
is
know,
exactly that was my first thought. Is like, is that Richie Sambora? But then I was like, no, it's definitely not.
no,
Um,
that's a self-portrait of me that I painted when I was in art school.
okay.
But oh yeah, but I love me some hair bands and heavy metal.
Love
So,
it.
and Bruce Springsteen, because you gotta love Bruce. It's just there.
Yeah, so many
Mhm.
classics.
Absolutely. Mhm.
The last question I'll ask you is, you're saying you're not going to take corporate money, any PAC money. I know you talked about people waiting to donate to you, that if they've got money, donate to somebody now, but there's going to be people that want to get involved and help out. So if they do, what do they got to do? How do they get in touch with you? How do they help out?
So they can go to my website, which is Terri Reese for NJ-02.com. I know it's long, but I'm a word girl. Um, and there is a place there where they can either donate to the campaign if they want. They can also reach out to the campaign, because what I really, really want more than anything is to meet people and meet people where they are. So what I'm asking for people to do is, in lieu of donations, they could host a meet and greet at their home and invite their friends, families, neighbors, acquaintances, colleagues, and if not at their home, sponsor an event at a local small business, maybe a local brewery, winery, small restaurant, something like that. Or you can sit there and say, you know what, I really want, I want to support you and I want to buy your next 1,000 business cards. Excellent, because all the money that comes into my campaign is spent locally. So I don't have, not my advisors, my volunteers, everybody is local to the South Jersey area. You know, um, follow me on social media and promote, comment or react, comment, share things that are, from the campaign site, so that we're getting my name and face out there.
Love it. All right.
So,
Well, Terry, I appreciate your time. I
yep.
really enjoyed the interview. Love to run it back. When is your primary?
My primary is June 3rd,
Okay.
2026.
So a lot of time between now and then.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, when we get into the heart of the primary season, love to talk to you then. Definitely in the general if you get through and when you're taking on Jeff Van Drew.
I will get through.
All right.
Putting
Okay.
it out there, I will get through.
There it is. But yeah, I would love to run it back and hopefully we can take back the House and the Senate and maybe restore some sanity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And get back to a government that is of the people, for the people, and
Love it.
by the people. Yes.
All right. Thanks so much, Terry. We'll talk to you soon.
Excellent. Thanks.